Tip number 303 from the book 501 Contractor Tips. This would be contractors designing projects. And this is fine if you're a contractor who has the experience, you know about plumbing, electrical, heating, structural framing loads, you know all about this stuff. You're going to do a fantastic job designing a project. And there's a lot more to just designing a project. Early on, I studied a lot of architecture and reasons why they were doing certain things. The reason why a door opens up to one side, and doorknob locations, ceiling, lights, light switches, electrical outlets. There was a lot of stuff. And this information really does help you when you're designing a project. I've seen, people go in and, they put an electrical outlet behind a door. They can't see the door, and I mean, that's something small that could be fixed in the field. But if you are a plumbing contractor and you know everything there is about plumbing, but very little about structural beams and framing, roof rafters, you might not do a good job creating a building, designing a building that is going to be structurally acceptable. Or you might create a building where an engineer is going to have to do a lot more work, and you might have to put a lot more money into the project, because and this money could have all been saved if it was designed just a little bit differently. So designing a project, main point I want to make here is even though contractors are allowed to design properties up to a certain height or square footage kind of a thing, then it's not always going to be the best way to go for your client. You're not always going to get the best project. Now, if you're a contractor and you've got the most experience out of all these people, then yeah, you're going to be the person who's going to be wanting to design this thing. I did room additions for years. I drew all the plans and then built the room addition. Well, drawing all the plans provided me with, that would get etched into my mind what I needed to do the next day. I knew what everything, I rarely had to look at the plans. I knew where everything was going to go. I had all the plumbing worked out, electrical, you name it, heating ducts, all this stuff was worked out. And it sped the job up, and there weren't any problems. I would go work for someone else. An architect drew the plans, an engineer, did his part or her part, and then project manager comes in and this thing's just all messed up. I cannot tell you how many times I came to a project like that. So you might not be able to find one person that can do everything, draw the plans, build it. But if you could find somebody to do something like that, those are going to be the people you're going to want to hire. And you can hire an architect with 30 years of experience, an engineer with 30 years of experience, a contractor with 30 years of experience, and even a project manager with 30 years of experience. And this does not mean you have a person who knows what they are doing. And that's one of the biggest problems I found in construction. And they don't care, most of them. Just as long as the project gets done and gets done fairly, okay, that resembles kind of what the plans are. I don't know what people's attitudes are nowadays, but I doubt if they're that much different. The plumber's going to go in and do his job, and if he's got to cut out a couple of wall studs because the engineer or the architect missed something, or on a tract of homes with 100 homes in it, who's going to really care at the end? All gets covered up with drywall. If it never falls down, no one's going to care. But that's not the attitude we need to take. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you know what you're doing, design the property, design a project. If you don't, you might want to consider getting a little more information before you do design your first project, or hire someone who knows what they're doing.